This is More Than Work, the podcast reminding you that your self-worth is made up of more than your job title. Each week, I'll talk to a guest about how they discovered that for themselves. You'll hear about what they did, what they're doing, and who they are. I'm your host, Rabiah. I work in IT, perform stand-up comedy, write, volunteer, and, of course, podcast. Thank you for listening. Here we go. Welcome back to More Than Work, everyone. So today my guest is Bhavana. She is a senior research fellow, MRI physicist at UCL, and she's a mom, so we're going to talk about all of that. I actually met her through some work with the MS Society UK and their research network, and thought she was really awesome, so wanted to talk to her here. I've not had an MRI physicist, nor did I even know it was a physicist, actually, for a long time on the show before. So, Bhavana, first of all, welcome to More Than Work.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. So, first of all, where am I talking to you from?
I'm over in London, just southwest London, at home today. Yeah.
Nice. So you can, be at home sometimes. Sometimes you're in a lab, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not going to try to explain your research. I don't think I'm the person to do that. I can explain why you're doing the research maybe, but not not the research. But yeah, so can you, first of all, I don't know if anyone else would be surprised to hear, there's an MRI physicist, but can you explain what that is, first of all?
Okay, so my job's a bit like, say, when you have the old style camera, you have an SLR camera, and you have to change things like your lens, whether you put a flash on, how you do your zoom, how much exposure you do, to get different types of images and different types of scenarios. So I'm similar with that with MRI. So we use this big MRI machine. For those of you that aren't familiar, you take images of anywhere in your body, a bit like an X-ray, but it's more soft tissue, so fat, muscle, brain, spinal cords, all of those sorts of things. And we take pictures inside the body, but an MRI's physicist job is to take different pictures, so to get different contrasts. So you can see, for example, you can see the fluid in your brain, or you can see the tissue in your brain. And so you can highlight different things and get different information that way.
So that's really cool. And then basically, because different illnesses or conditions can impact different parts of the brain, right? I would think of the brain as just the brain, but then you're saying actually no, but there's the different components in it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of complexity in there. So if there's some damage to the brain, it's great to know where this damage is, because the different parts of the brain are responsible for different things. But also the way they would show up, the way they interact with that huge magnet you go and lie inside of when you have an MRI. The way they interact with that is what we're exploiting as MRI physicists. We're trying to really make them show up in our images.
Well, that's really cool. And so you've been at the Queen Square MS Center for a long time, for over 15 years. So
Yeah.
how did you first, because I guess what I'm thinking is, and I think about this with any doctor or clinical professional, that you could have probably just gone and made a lot of money doing private medicine, maybe in the US or something, for example. Or you can go and do research and have your career dedicated to that. And so how did you make that decision, and then how'd you end up with MS? Not with
So
MS, but in MS.
researching about
I'm
it.
not
So
diagnosing you.
it's kind of by accident, and it's kind of to do with my values, I guess. I actually started out doing astrophysics.
Wow.
I watched Armageddon. I don't know if there's a line in there where the astrophysicist is asked to basically save the world.
Yeah.
Being a naive 15, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, I thought, oh, I want to be an astrophysicist.
Nice.
To save the world. It was an amazing degree. I got to go to Manchester,
Yeah.
use these huge radio telescopes to look at things really, really far away. By the end of my degree, I was like, I really want to. Looking at stars was amazing.
Yeah.
Can I just say, and learning about how the universe formed. But I wanted to do something that more directly helped people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was always brought up that way, in this environment where everybody's always helping people. There's a big community.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something that helped people more directly. And there's actually quite a bit of overlap between MRI physics, because you use radio waves essentially to look inside your body, and looking at galaxies really, really far away. You're looking at radio waves and using these huge telescopes rather than a little coil, a little satellite basically that you put on your body. And you're dealing with the data sometimes in quite similar ways. So I thought, okay, I could take what I've learned and use it to help people. And so that started me off in my research. I did research in diabetes, liver disease, and stroke models. And then a job came up at UCL at the Queen Square MS Centre. I knew they were leading in MS research. They were a leading group of MRI physicists there as well. So I thought it'd be an exciting place to be part of. But what really sparked my curiosity was they had this big MRI scanner, very expensive piece of machinery, which was actually funded at the time by the MS Society. And I thought, why is
Wow.
charity investing so heavily in this machine? And, and I've been there 15 years now, and MRI is just absolutely integral to MS diagnosis, its monitoring, understanding the disease better. And like you say, I've been there 15 years. Still so much more to do, so much more to learn, so many different ways to push. And I know you and I have had conversations as part of your role in the research network.
Yeah.
And and I don't know if you can tell from that how much I enjoy learning more about the disease and try to understand it and using my physics background to be able to help do that as well.
Well, absolutely. I mean, your passion for it resonated, and I've talked candidly, and I've talked on the podcast and about I do have multiple sclerosis. I did hide that for a long time, or I didn't want people to know because it was like,
Mm.
I don't know, it's tough. I mean, in a way that people can look at you differently or think of you differently. But when I met you, you were so interested in us. And just to explain really quick, I guess, for people listening, is the MS Society and any of them. So I have a friend who works for the one in California, a branch, but the MS Society UK has the research network, and so people living with MS will be able to contribute to like patient public information or public patient information. It's PPI, but basically talk to people like Bhavna who are doing research and basically help inform like how helpful the work is that they're doing and what is the patient perspective and what are the things we're dealing with and stuff like that. And it's an amazing opportunity to learn about what research is happening, but also feel like we're kind of taking some control over this thing we don't have control over. And so I think you, Bhavna, like listening to us and me experiencing calls with you, I was really inspired like, oh, someone's giving their career to this thing I have and a lot of other people have and really caring about us because you could just be researching scans and like there's not a person in them, but I feel like you are seeing a person and that's pretty awesome. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's so fundamental, I guess, to what we do. And like I said, that first thing that drove me into MRI was taking the things that I enjoyed and knew and using it to help people. And when you're sat in a lab, especially an MRI machine, um, you can lose sight of that sometimes. And so being able to engage with the community more directly and really understand what's important to them. When it comes to something like an MRI as well, you've got getting to the MRI, you've got all the noise that involves. So if you've ever had an MRI, you have these loud thudding noises. There's a lot of getting in and out the scanner, which, people with different abilities need to be able to do. How long the actual scan is and staying still. These are the sort of, human factors we need to consider. We can't just look at it with physics alone because what you can do in something that's very still, that's willing to lie there for 3 hours is very different to what, what the actual real situation is. And also, we work with, for example, we want to work with the NHS to make them faster, cut down waiting lists, things like that. So there's so many different parts of it as an MRI physicist that you can help impact and help make a real difference to. And at the heart of it, it is helping understand disease and help monitoring it, help diagnose it and things, and helping the people in the research network and the communities that matter.
Yeah, and well, and it's interesting you said too to make it faster. I mean, sometimes I've been in there a long time, and
Y-
like people with
Yeah.
MS, like it's usually our brains are being looked at. That means you're sliding in head first, and so you're
Yeah.
just kind of confined in this. I did call it a crypt one time, and the person said tunnel, and I was like,
I'd call it a tube,
a
but
tube,
okay.
yeah, a tube. So that's the
Yeah.
better word for it too. Yeah, just not referring to it that way. But I was young. I was 40. I'm just kidding. But no, but it's really cool, and just also I think the fact that then you're also determining what the best type of scan is, right? So maybe
Yeah.
there like maybe some aren't necessary eventually and stuff. I'm just curious, are you using AI at all in what you're doing? I mean, has that impacted you?
So that's a huge thing that's sort of come on really fast,
Yeah.
and MRI is a great place to use AI actually. So a lot of the major vendors who make MRI machines are already incorporated AI into the machine. Now, they're attempted to not do anything scary. They don't want to make a brain out of your stomach, for example. That would be bad news.
Or you have two brains in the
And
scan, like how it
and
has multiple
yeah,
fingers.
exactly. So, what we want to reduce is the noise in our image. So they use a lot of the AI to reduce the noise rather than make up signal that's not there, so that we're as accurate as we can be still when it comes to diagnosis and precision, whilst boosting things like how sharp the image is, the resolution of the image. So we're using AI in that way already, and it's already like been taken hold of and incorporated in the scanners. So a lot of the modern scanners now already have these technologies embedded in them to make it faster or sharper. Uh, but also, there is a growing field of, we've got all these scans, we've got all these data, and maybe we could make it faster, and maybe we could help AI make it faster, or maybe it could be help with the bottleneck that occurs when you have too many images. If you go faster, great, you're reducing waiting lists. But on the other hand, there's only so many radiologists. They're already very busy. And can we help those radiologists triage what really needs, an expert set of eyes, and what actually is very basic, and they'd be able to rely on it. And for that, you need information. For example, as a person with MS, you wouldn't want to think this has only been tested in 10 people.
Yeah.
You'd want
Yeah.
hundreds of people, and you'd want to know that it's very, very accurate.
Right.
And, it's up to us to help design those studies and boost that accuracy and really interrogate the results before an organization or institution like the NHS
Yeah.
can really take hold of that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of scope for AI in that as well. But I wouldn't go along with these things that, or just upload your image anywhere and somebody can tell you what is wrong with you. You
No.
really need the expertise behind it
Yeah, no.
as well.
I mean, it's like the whole WebMD thing we were doing, like 15 years ago. Like, oh, I'm gonna look up, and everyone ends up with these
Yeah.
horrific illnesses because they have a head cold, And I mean, it's natural to do that. I still do that. I still look up things, but yeah, you don't want to just be like, oh, I was diagnosed by ChatGPT, who
Yes,
I'm also in love
exactly.
with, and whatever. There are people doing this now.
Who's also your therapist,
Who's
right?
also your therapist? Yeah, that's like, I don't know, man. I don't think so. I want my therapist to challenge me, not agree with me on everything. Like, you're right, Rabiah. Well, that's all I needed to know. It's ridiculous. So, just going back to the astrophysicist, like you studying astrophysics and everything. I know there was one famous one, which was Brian May from Queen. I learned that on a tour in Tenerife, and then you were saying there's also another famous
Yeah,
astrophysicist.
Brian Cox.
Yeah, which is really
He was in
cool.
DV. Yeah, we didn't realize he was famous at the time when he was teaching us. I think it was advanced particle physics, actually. It wasn't even astrophysics. And we thought, oh, we were a bit stuck on an exam that we'd try and email him. We realized he'd been on top of the pops. So after that, if we failed an exam, it was definitely things can only get better
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
after that.
That's so
That was
wild,
our
right? Just to
answer.
have like these. I know, and I
Yeah.
I took a class when I was at university. I was at UC San Diego, and in my college that I was in, you had to take like other disciplines besides your major, but they were all intro classes that anyone could handle essentially. And so I took this one about space, and Sally Ride, the
I mean,
astronaut, was my instructor,
oh,
and I
wow.
got yelled at by her because my friend wouldn't shut up.
She made an impression.
Ugh, someone did. I mean, this woman went to space. I was like fascinated, and my friend just kept talking, and like I was like, "Can you stop?" And then finally, she tells me to be quiet, and I turned so red and whatever. And I just will never forget. Like I so disappointed Sally Ride. It was awful. It's horrible. But when you are you still interested in space? And I mean, or is it more just like, oh, the stars are pretty kind of thing now? I mean,
I feel like it's, you know what, it sort of died down a little bit. If I could turn my screen on right now, you'd see I've just got stars in front of
oh,
me,
cool.
and
Okay.
it says Dream Big Little One because this used to be the nursery. Um, and so I think I've gone back more into it
Nice.
as you know, I realize like you're back in that world when you start having kids with their curiosity and knowing about the world, and it takes me back to all those questions I had
Yeah.
when I did astrophysics. And I wanted to know how stars were formed and how far away something is, and just random stuff.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
You know, no particular, oh, I want to do something specific. I think it was just curiosity about the world.
Hmm.
And when you have little kids in your life, that kind of comes back to you again.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I
Definitely.
mean, I have friends with kids, and there's
Yeah.
definitely like this nice thing about just having some fact that's interesting to them, and like you have this information,
Yeah.
but also like experiencing them asking the questions, like you're saying. I mean, it's really cool because I know some people don't really like kids, but I think kids are really the best of who we are. Like, because they don't know yet. They don't have like these strong opinions about things formed or whatever. They're learning, and
Yes.
it's pretty cool. Like they're seeing things for the first time all the time. We rarely
Yeah.
get to do that anymore,
They can be fascinated by the smallest things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so just with your work though in the lab, so you one thing you mentioned um was that part of it is related to your values. So was your upbringing such that like did your parents were they involved in the community, or were they scholars, or what was it, do you think, that built you up to have those values of
I always saw them helping.
hmm,
I'm not in an official capacity.
mm-hmm,
Um, my dad was an engineer by the time I'm old enough to have memories. He'd been made redundant. He worked in a factory. My mum was a housewife at the time. She had worked. When they both moved over from India, they'd both been working here. So they worked really, really hard, and they built up a good community around us. But I remember people coming because my dad had a good standard of English. He was very confident in it. So he'd be great at helping people in the community, just with their paperwork, for example. And now, like, I do a bit of paperwork for my mum. She's quite elderly and she does direct payments and things like that. And Rabiah, I have a PhD, and I find some of these forms pretty tough. You don't want to get caught out. You don't want to write the right
yeah,
thing. And I have, I've born here, grown up here, a good standard of English. Even I find them difficult.
mm-hmm,
And I remember my dad, like people coming to my dad being like, "Can you help us with this form? Can you help us with that form?" My mum, I'm one of five, I'm the youngest of
oh
five.
wow,
She was the neighborhood babysitter. We had all the kids at our house. She basically enabled so many women to work. And I keep their families going. And, they just trusted her that, okay, there's enough people in this house so these kids will be looked after. And it was amazing. Like my mum had her, I think it must have been her 70th birthday party. And, we did the invite list. Most people at the time were under the age of 40. They were
amazing,
all the kids she looked after who came back and were like, oh, yeah, mum, we used to have the best time at your house. And,
yeah,
with five kids as well, there's a lot of entertainment for all the children as well.
yeah,
So I just saw that they built this around them,
mm-hmm,
and we were surrounded by people who helped each other. So it wasn't like, yes, they helped with charities and things like that, but it wasn't this massive, massive thing. It was just ingrained in every day. If somebody was having a hard time, we go over with a meal, that sort of thing, just like everyday community things.
right.
And I think that really set in us. And I think if you look at all of what me and my siblings ended up doing, in one way or another, we all ended up doing jobs where you help people.
Awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
that's great, and that's cool just to have experience seeing that, as part of like normalcy for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's really cool. Well, so it's it's super clear that you're passionate about your work and like why you moved into what you did, which is really what this podcast is about. But then outside of work, I mean, you did mention being a mom. I think a lot of people don't really think about that as being also a job. I mean, it's not a job in
Yeah,
the
I
sense
do.
that you hired yourself, kind of, but um, you have that, and then you do a lot of activities around raising your kids. And so, do you want to talk about how that is part of your balance outside of work? And
Yeah, yeah, it's a really important part, I think. It helps me, it can be really isolating being a mom, actually. And I had this huge identity of being a scientist and a career person and all of that. Um, and when I had my first child, it really was a shock to the system. And having and building a network of other mums, like-minded mums, it's just really, really helpful. And that having that support system, doing a job where there's
mm-hmm.
no one to really guide you, because yes, we all have our parents and we all have the way we've been brought up, but you know, each generation has a different set of challenges
Yeah,
to navigate. My mum will be like, "Oh, you have this job, and then you have to do this, and now you're responsible for their education as well." Whereas my mum was pretty hands off about our education. So, so yeah, there's a lot there, and I'm part of I help with the PSA as well, which is a parent and school association. So that helps organize events for the school
right.
and things like the Christmas fair, summer
Yeah.
fair, being class rep, selling uniform and things. And
Mm-hmm.
I just feel it gives me a really nice, really nice group of parents that I meet who are
Mm-hmm.
quite like-minded, similar values. You work together with them on something. And I work part-time as well, so I'll
Okay.
take some of my one day off and help with the PSA if I can. And sometimes it's as weird as like I'm not creative, but building baskets for the raffle prize or something. And other times is a bit more aligned with what I'm actually doing, like going into school and talking about being a scientist or being a female scientist
Yeah.
and things like that. Or talking about, like, I grew up Hindu, talking about Hinduism and things like
Okay.
that. So I love being able to exchange with the schools. I do a lot of outreach as well as
Nice.
part of my job. I really liked, getting the opportunity and taking the opportunity to sort of help inspire the next generation and really watch your curiosity just thrive and
Mm-hmm.
grow. It's a really magical thing.
Yeah, no, that's
Really
really cool.
magical.
And I have quite a few friends with kids, and so I think just either having just observed, just maybe I'm sitting there and watching what's going on or talking to them, there is so much work involved. And I have a good friend who works on a similar thing to the PSA. It's called something else in the States, but um, she wants to be involved and see, her kids growing up,
Yeah.
and it's a challenge though because it's taking a lot of time. And we were talking too about how, like, what did our parents do to raise us, and like how do you what do you do to raise your kids in a way that sets them up well, and they are raised to be good people, good human beings and
Yeah.
stuff. And I was talking to my friend, I was telling her, well, I think one challenge there is now that our parents didn't have, and I assume we're kind of in a similar age group, is just that, like, our parents were one of our only sources of information until we were a certain age, right? And then it was like books,
Sure.
and that was, and other
That was
kids
it.
and older siblings maybe when you learn the naughty stuff, but that's it. I mean, you had older siblings, you learn things, you probably knew things faster than they did just because they were talking about them. But now kids have so many inputs, there's so much information coming at them. They have their iPads. Some people are like, I don't get my kid an iPad, fine, but other people do, and I think they need to learn those skills. There's YouTube Kids is crazy. I think it's actually worse than whatever's on YouTube personally. Like, it's so weird.
The
um
quality of things.
it's like wild, right? It's Yeah, anyway. That's just my opinion as someone who's seen it over the shoulders of a kid.
Yeah.
But I think there's just so much different information coming at them, and I think that, like, that's got to be a big challenge for parents to figure out how to help address questions or help, like, kind of redirect if there's information they're getting that maybe isn't even kind or healthy for them to
Yeah.
have, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's like the playground multiplied by 100,000. So it is really scary, but and at the same time, you kind of have to accept that they are digital natives. This is the world, and you have to parent for the future, I guess. You have to parent knowing that this is the world they're going to grow up in, and I guess our struggle is giving them the tools to navigate that when we're not really sure what they are yet. So far my kids are in primary school,
Hmm.
so I've been able to protect them somewhat, and luckily, and my nieces are very careful with what they put on the net and what they look at as well. So influence wise, we've been quite lucky so far, touch wood.
Yeah.
But I have said you are going to be shown things that make you feel uncomfortable, and you might know that you're not meant to look at it, but it's like a car crash. You will keep
Yeah.
on looking.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad. Come and tell me.
Yeah.
You won't be in trouble. Just try to keep that communication
Hmm.
open without being like, absolutely, go on there, look at whatever you want and come tell me about it.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm trying to say. It's more, these things will happen, and being able to have that conversation afterwards and have more than one conversation, I
Hmm.
think, as well about it is quite important. But I think I'm still learning here.
Yeah, well, like not having giving
Absolutely.
them shame or something or whatever. It
Yeah.
depends on what we're talking about, but just there's all kinds of stuff you can see.
There's all kinds of stuff,
Um,
right?
yeah, I feel like my
Yeah.
sister, she has three kids, and the oldest one's 21 now, so she's gone through a lot of it.
Yes.
And the youngest one's 16, but I think she's done a good job of they are open with her, and so I think then that allows them, even if they do make a mistake or even if they do something that's they're allowed to do, but maybe not in the right way or something. I don't know. I think they'll talk to her, and I think that is a super important thing is like having the communication. Um,
Yeah.
do you think that the work you're doing influences like some of your thinking around parenting, or like your work, like seeing your kids growing up, has an effect on your work at all? Like in some way, maybe that.
I think they both are, I mean, central to my world as my kids, but they're both very important to
Hmm.
me. My job is very important to me as well. I think they do view me as a mum and a scientist.
Hmm.
Like, I think they do. I'm not just mum to them. They do realize I have this other
Yeah.
thing that I do, and they're very welcome in my world. Like, once we went to watch a film, and it was an outdoor cinema. It was summer holidays. Absolute fail. Didn't check the weather. Made that on us. Happened to be near work. I was like, let's go look at some fruit. I showed them some MRI of some fruit. They were
Oh.
guessing what it was. Is that broccoli? Like, broccoli's great. It looks like a firework when you go through it.
Oh, nice.
And so they were looking at, oh, why does a coconut look the way it does? Why does a pomegranate look the way it does? And things like that. And they've been there when I'm sat there looking at brain images, and they're in the background, and now they can tell me if my image is good or not. And it's not that I've sat there and been like, oh, you must be into imaging, because I don't really mind what they're into, as long as it's not slime. Slime is messy and it gets
Were
everywhere.
they making slime at
Um,
one point? I know my niece and nephews were like
oh
making
yeah,
slime.
I thought
So
that would be a
gross.
good lockdown idea.
But
That did not
no, it's
last long.
crazy.
Uh,
Yeah.
and Yeah, so they're very much like have a kind of overview of what I'm
Hmm.
doing and where I'm going, and if I'm going to be working late, and sort of what I'm working on. But I wouldn't say it's not like we sit there at the dining table talking
Yeah.
about it's just if it comes up. But also the other way around, like I did a study on ultra high processed food with Chris Van Tolkien. He did a 4 week, I think, ultra high processed food diet.
Okay.
And I looked at some of the data from that. And I remember being absolutely shocked at what we saw with an N equals one, just
Right.
one sample, the amount of changes we saw in the brain.
Hmm.
And the data I looked at, I actually questioned it and went back
Hmm.
and made sure it was acquired the way it should have been, because the change was so big.
Wow.
And that definitely, brought to home that, ultra high processed food is something that I can try and minimize. You can't eliminate it. Well, maybe you can, but I don't have the energy and time to do that. But we made quite a few changes at home to try and reduce the ultra processed food,
Right.
and that was a direct result of what I was learning through work. Things like the more and more conferences I go to and autoimmune diseases I'm exposed to listen to about vitamin D, things like that. It's always been a big thing to me. Go outside, get a walk every day, have your vitamins. Which, I'd say I was probably brought up the same, but it brought another dimension to it. The importance of it
Right.
was there as well. So there definitely is an interplay to how I parent and what I put my values in, but also um I work with a lot of very clever people, I guess, and I feel the best ideas come when people come from one field into another one and they look at something completely different. So I really try to ensure that my children get lots of opportunities to just be exposed to lots of different things. And they can be free, just going to the museum and there's a lot of things I was not exposed to as a child, like music, for example. I wasn't very sporty either, so sports. So, bringing one thing in with another and watching that interplay happen, just encouraging curiosity and letting them think outside the box, I think is really important.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, like, I mean, really, it's curiosity has driven part of your
Oh yeah,
career, right? And so, like, you
yeah.
see the value in that. And so
Like
then you have an interest in cricket too, right? Which I've found
this
out is
is
not
quite new. This is
baseball.
quite new.
Okay.
So my interest in cricket also stems from the family life. So
Hmm.
um, I am, one of the most. Some people may find this enjoyable. I am not the parent that watches their kids do lots of sports and things. Yay! And I do feel for my mom having had 5 kids and watches do sports day and fail miserably. Um, but I'm there taking the kids to cricket every Sunday. And my partner, he's coaching the cricket team. He was really into
Oh,
cricket. He's the
wow.
one who's like, my kids need to do cricket. All right, that's what you want to do. It's a good weather sport. I like that. It's in a big green field, full of like it's a beautiful, beautiful place to go to Hampton Wick, Royal Cricket Club. I say, okay, son's doing one, kids doing one, partner's doing the coach. I'm just sat there and I'm thinking, "This 2.5 hours. This is getting.
Yeah.
Just have a bit of time to yourself. Also getting a little bit boring." In the far corner, one of the coaches has stepped up and he's coaching the women, just women's cricket. So I went over, I joined them. I'm not a
Oh,
sporty
wow.
person, but so much fun. And I challenged myself and I thought, if I can do this, which is so outside of my comfort zone, so outside who I am as a person, to be honest, team sport. I was, I wasn't great at PE at school. I was always like pick last to
Yeah,
do
I get that.
anything.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something I identified with or something that I had confidence in. And I thought, just, if they could get out there and do that, then surely they can see their mum get out there and do something she's rubbish at. To the point where when we're practicing at home now, they're like, Mom, you need to open your eyes to catch the ball. And, and they're trying to coach me on something. And it's so nice. It's so nice to see them be the expert now and try and tell me what to do. And I
Yeah.
can hear my own voice back sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, must be kinder. Um,
Yeah.
and it's great to see them try and teach me and get into that. And it's a lovely community as well, actually. The cricketing community is a really nice place to be, really nice to hang out. And it's just something new I've sort of taken on last summer, and I'm hoping to stick at it. I don't think I'll ever be any good, but it's good fun. I'll stick with it and keep going outside my comfort zone,
Yeah, it's something else to
trying new
do.
things.
And then one thing that you talked about a little bit was just that you speak in schools about being a woman in science, but how passionate are you about that? Because I've spent my career in IT, most of it, and as a woman, that's sometimes difficult, and you're sometimes the only person. And now even in comedy, I'm sometimes the only woman in the room, and so there are a lot of
Oh yeah,
spaces where
definitely.
women
Yeah.
are underrepresented, and so science is definitely one as well.
Yeah. I mean, I was a handful of girls in my course when I did physics and astrophysics.
Hmm.
It was very male dominated. And I always got the looks, you're like, oh, what do you do? I'm a physicist, I'm an astrophysicist. I mean, there's no better way to get people away from you.
Yeah.
How not to make friends. But and I wanted to change that, how people are viewed for being a scientist or being a woman in science or being a woman doing physics. And I really wanted to challenge stereotypes as well.
Yeah.
So UCL is a great place for that. They really encourage us to do outreach and get involved. So I've had really great opportunities to do things like go into the schools, talk about the work I do to primary school age children. I've worked with children from disadvantaged backgrounds and as part of Into Science. And that's a scheme where people who may not have mentors or the role models in their life. I had my big sisters, to be honest. Like my eldest
Right.
sister's, 8.5, 9 years older than me. And she did science and went off to do a PhD, and all
Mm.
my other sisters did too. So I had those role models, and I probably took that for granted. So when went and did physics, and I was the only girl, I did not feel intimidated. And I felt like I could take up space, but I'd seen other people do that. I'd seen that that's a valid thing to do.
Yeah.
Whereas, maybe some people aren't exposed to those role models that early on. So it's a space where, 16, 17-year-olds come into our lab and we talk to them about what we do, the different elements of it. Like one huge thing that, people might not realize is, when I was 21 and I graduated, I realized, oh, I could do a PhD and I get to travel. I get to go to
Oh,
conferences and
yeah.
see the world. And it was really exciting to me to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And something I never really thought I'd do. I'd have the opportunity to do, and to get the opportunity to do that and put a face to, female scientists. Growing up, yes, I had my sisters, but in the wider, on TV, I didn't see it.
Hmm.
When I went to my course, there wasn't many girls. When I did my PhD, I started with four other white males, and had a great time, to be honest.
Yeah.
There were still lots of, that we had a center where, us girls used to get together and watch Desperate Housewives on a Wednesday.
Love that show.
I mean, it was so good. It was the most unexpected things for
Yeah.
for for these women in physics to be doing, and we were like a little family. We were so close knit, and all the guys around us were lovely. There was nothing wrong with them, but it was lovely to create our own space amongst that as well. So I do things like soapbox science, which is just it's quite nerve-wracking. No slides or anything. You stand on a soapbox, or in my case, at the South Bank, and talk about your job and what you
Oh,
do and why it
wow.
works and how MRI works without anything else.
Wow.
And it's so rewarding. I had a 16-year-old who then wanted to come to the lab and came and spent a day with us to see what we did. And her mum wrote to us afterwards, beautiful note saying, she has not stopped talking about MRI. You have absolutely inspired her. Thank you so much for and all of us in the lab were so happy to do it, so happy to see young people interested in it, and a young woman as well to be like, yeah, that's something I can do. That's a really important thing for me, to be able to do and say, and for even my daughter's friends to realize, okay, yeah, this is something women can do.
Yeah.
They're not weird species. It's a valid career.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, because I mean, there is a thing about representation and just seeing someone like you doing something that helps you see that you could do it. And there's got to be someone who does that first, but then the fact that you are going around and being generous with your time and sharing that to help build a future, of people, especially of young women in this case, like seeing themselves in science is super. Because that'll help also with more equity in research, right? And
Oh, absolutely.
just around who's
Absolutely.
being
Yeah.
studied. Um,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, cool. Well, one thing I like to ask every guest is just like, do you have any advice or mantra that you like to share? Just that you kind of comes to you to share with people?
I don't think I'm the person you should go to for advice, but I would say get outside your comfort zone, do things that are unexpected, and if you've got young people around you, just encourage that curiosity, um, because it's so important at growing the next generation. And if anybody's interested in the science we spoke about today, and they wanted to volunteer and help science in their own little way, there's always a space for you, and we'd love to hear from you as well.
Awesome. No, that's great. Yeah, and I agree about getting outside your comfort zone. So next we have the fun five, and it's 5 questions I ask every guest. They're fun for
Yeah.
me. If they're fun for you, I don't know. It's up and down on that one. So the first one is, what's the oldest T-shirt you have and still wear?
So actually, I just gave it away. It was
Oh,
full of holes, and it was time. It was
yeah,
time.
yeah.
But it was a t-shirt that I'd actually bought for my other half when I was expecting, and it said "Daddy to be" on it, and it had these two baby feet on it, and it was is emblazoned with the words "Daddy to be." Very, very not something he would ever wear. So anyway, I ended up adopting it. It comes up to my knees. So I ended up being my pajamas, and I'd do my workouts, and I'd answer the door, much to the bemusement of delivery drivers. And unfortunately, it was time to give it up. It was full
Yeah.
of holes. But yeah, that was my oldest one.
Nice. I like that. I like that. I like any time too you give someone something that they end up giving to you. You're like, oh, it was a good
Yeah.
gift. So if every day was really Groundhog's Day, like in the Bill Murray movie, right, where he
Mhm.
wakes up to the same song every day, what song would you wake up to?
Alicia Keys, "Girl on Fire."
Oh,
That's right.
nice.
Definitely. Very empowering. Love her voice as well.
For sure
Yeah.
it is. Yeah. My mom and I were in the car recently when I was back visiting in the States, and Alicia Keys came on, and my mom's like, "Oh, I haven't heard her in so long," and it was so refreshing to hear her voice. She's
Yeah.
really amazing.
Yeah.
All right, coffee or tea or neither?
Tea.
Tea.
Doesn't give me the jitters. I mean, it feels like a warm hug. So
Nice.
definitely a tea person.
Awesome. Okay. Can you think of like a time when you laughed so hard you cried, or just something that makes you just like crack up?
Oh, this is going to sound so typical parent,
It's
but
all
my
right.
kids absolutely crack me up.
Yeah.
Absolutely crack me up. For example, recently we went to John Lewis to look at washing machines and tumble dryers. And there's this washing machine where you load all the detergent in and the fabric conditioner, and it measures it out for you. And I thought,
Oh.
I don't understand why you need this. Like, this is not why I don't do my laundry. I don't understand what friction this is really minimizing.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's the one we went for other reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went to pick up my son when he arrived. I went to pick him up from school, and he was crying because I bought the wrong snack. He stopped suddenly. He goes, "Mummy, have you done the laundry today?"
Oh my
I was
God.
like, "No, I haven't." And he came home absolutely happy as a bunny and did the laundry. And this is why you have a washing machine that meshes the fabric conditioner out for you,
Yeah.
because he can now do it on his own. And he's so happy. He's so happy, just fascinated by the weirdest things.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh no, we need to shell out for a washing machine. And to him, it's the biggest thing ever to have it. And he sat there watching it spin.
Yeah.
Just joy, complete joy for him.
I
Things
do.
like that just make me laugh.
It's a kid being able to do laundry, which is kind of good because a lot of kids never do laundry, actually.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Now he comes out like, well, if you eat that, you can do the laundry. You can
perfect.
load the washing machine, and you can then watch it for 10 minutes go around.
That's amazing. I like it. And maybe he'll figure out why socks disappear.
Where they disappear.
Yeah, where do they go? Like,
Why and where.
yeah. So maybe that could be something he can run some experiments. Okay, last one. Who inspires you right now?
So many people. So many people. Honestly, anybody who like lives a life to their own beat, really does things a little bit differently to
Mhm.
achieve their aims on their like with their rules, and not trying to
Mhm.
conform to the way things should be done and be constricted by that. Anybody who, I love hearing about people's life stories and how they got to where they did in a weird and wonderful way.
Yeah.
Those are the sort of stories and people I find inspiring.
Cool. Well, awesome, and I do too. one reason I do this.
Yeah.
So is there anything you want people to do to like look you up? Like if someone just hears, maybe they hear their kids interested in science, or they want to know more about you, or they want you on their podcast, where should they go to find you and your
Oh,
work?
absolutely. Just connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a message there, or email me at UCL, Bhavana Solanky at ucl.uk.ac.uk. And yeah, get in touch. We'd be happy to hear from you.
Cool. All right. Well, Bhavana, thanks so much for being on More Than Work. It was really great to get to know you more and know more about what you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Cool. Thanks for listening. You can learn more about the guest and what was talked about in the show notes. Joe Maffia created the music you're listening to. You can find him on Spotify at Joe, Maffia. Rob Metke does all the design, for which I am so grateful. You can find him online by searching Rob, Metke. Please leave a review if you like the show, and get in touch if you have feedback or guest ideas. The pod is on all the social channels at More Than Work Pod or at Rabiah Comedy on TikTok. While being kind to others, don't forget to be kind to yourself.